Back to the test. I still have a few people that need to take it. That needs to be done by Tuesday, please. And then I'll get those back to you. So this is 4.4 factoring. And like I said, we use factoring to solve for x when you have a quadratic, which is going to be most of your world from here on out. One more thing I was going to tell you. Let's talk about the next 2.5 weeks. We have 3 sections in this unit, so we'll test right before our final, and then I'll have like 2 days in class that you can review for your final. Like that Monday, Tuesday, we'll have review for the final. So your test, I haven't planned it. I did. I just put it on the board. Your test would be Friday the 13th.
Great.
Next Friday. So we have a lot to get through. So let's get going with this first problem. This is called, you're also going to hear this called the X method. You were taught this in Algebra 1, but it's not a skill that most people master in Algebra 1. So I'm going to show it to you like it's the first time you're seeing it. So we're all going to be at all different places. I'm just going to pretend like it's the first time you're seeing it. So a lot of teachers call this the X method, and that's just a way to factor. Some people can figure out and can factor, it's called guess and check, and put in the factors. This is the straightforward way to do it. So remember, when you have a quadratic, this is the A term, that's the B term, and that's the C term. So the A term is with the x squared, B is with the x, and C is by itself. So when you do the X method, you're going to take the A times the C on the top. So the A term here is not written, so we assume it's a 1. So I have 1 times 20, and I'm going to fill in the top of my X with a 20, because that's what 1 times 20 is. And then the bottom of my X is the B of my trinomial, which is 9. Okay, so the first step is fill in A times C and B. Does this look familiar?
Nope.
Okay, the second step is you're going to look for 2 numbers. There's only one set of numbers that works, but it's going to multiply to be A times C and add to be 9. So you're looking at the multiples of 20. So like 20 times 1 is 20, but 20 plus 1 is not 9. 10 times 2 is 20, but 10 plus 2 is not 9. 5 times 4 is 20, and 5 plus 4 is 9. So those are my new numbers.
It's always going to work like that?
It's always going to work like that, and you always want to start with what to multiply, not what to add, because there's more options to add to get to 9 than there are to multiply to get to 20. So 5 times 4 is 20. 5 plus 4 is 9. So here's the step that throws people for some reason. So we found our new numbers, so that's step 2, find numbers. Then we're going to replace our B term with those numbers. So I have x squared plus 5x plus 4x plus 20. Go ahead. So I haven't changed the problem because what's 5 plus 4? 9. So I've just taken and split apart what the 9 is. Okay? Everybody good with that? So that's step 3 is replace B with the new numbers. Okay, our last step is what we call factor by grouping. And all that is we're going to group the first 2 together, and we're going to group the second 2 together, and we're going to look to see what those groups individually, what's in common in the group. So what do we have in common between x and 5 plus x? They both have an x. So I can divide an x out, and in my parentheses, I would be left with x plus 5. Everybody okay with that? I'm just factoring out an x, or dividing out an x to the front. Then what does the second parenthesis have in common?
4.
4. So I'm going to take out a positive 4, And when I divide a 4 out of here, I have x plus 5. Here's how you know you've done it right. When those two factors are the same, we've done it right. Okay? That's one of your factors, is x plus 5. Your other factor comes from whatever you took out. You're going to put those together. So this would give me x plus 4. And this is the factored form of this trinomial, x squared plus 9x plus 20. So if we were going to solve for x, now you could solve for x. You couldn't solve for x the way this was written. You have to factor it first.
So you got to get rid of the square.
If I was to multiply this back together, it'd go back to this.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's try another one. I'll move slow again, and then I'll let you try one on your own, and then I'm going to math it up just a little bit.
Ooh.
So this next one, I have x squared plus 2x minus 15. Okay, my first step is to do a times c. What is a times c for this problem? Negative 15. And then my b term is 2. So I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to give me negative 15, but add together to give me 2. So I have 15 and 1. That's not going to work. I have 3 and 5. One of them has to be negative because I'm multiplying to be a negative. Negative 3 because I need this positive, this 2 to be positive. So I'm going to do 5 and negative 3. So these are my two new numbers. What do I do after I find my two new numbers? Replace the b term. So I have x squared plus 5x minus 3x minus 15. Everybody with me? Okay, group the first two, group the second two. What do I have in common in the first group?
X.
An x, so I take an x out, and I'm left with x plus 5. What do I have in the second group?
Negative 3.
Negative 3. Whenever there's a negative in this first term, in this parenthesis here, the second one, you want to take negative whatever you're taking out. Even if you're taking out a 1, like because they have nothing in common, you'll take out a 1, you're going to take out negative. So this is going to be negative 3, leaving me with x plus 5. I know I've done it right because those are the same. So my factors are x plus 5 and x minus 3. So far, so good?
Yeah.
Did you remember this at all? No?
Yeah.
No bit?
I don't think we ever did this.
I just remember the
You
X
did.
part. That's it. Like that little thingy up there.
You did. But in Algebra 1, it is never mastered. Like, never. It just isn't. Because you don't use it. You might see it for a week, and then you don't use it. In Algebra 2, we use it all the time. In Trig Pre-Calc, she expects that you walk in day 1 knowing how to do this, which you will because we'll use this a lot. And in College Algebra, we use it a ton, too.
What's next?
Okay, so we have, I want you guys to try this one on your own. This isn't our last example, but I do want you to see what you can do on this one, all by yourself.
I thought you said you were going to math it up.
I'm going to,
Oh.
after this one. Nolan, you need to get something to write with. Your hint for this one, remember a negative times a negative is a positive.
I'm already good.
Why do you have a Fortnite pickaxe?
You know what that is. One of my little friends was that for Halloween,
Oh,
and he gave this to me so I could use it as a pointer
perfect.
since I love Christmas so much. It's Logan. Logan Jurgens, Elliot's little brother.
Oh.
Tina, he calls me Tina, long story. But Tina needs this because she loves Christmas. And I do.
I kinda like it, not gonna lie.
I know. It's been in my house and I thought I would bring it and use it as a pointer like he wanted me to. Okay, shall we see how we did? A times C, so my top part of my X is going to be 12. And then B is -7. So I'm looking for two numbers that are multiplying to give me 12.
-3, -4.
Okay, go through all of them and you should see a negative times a negative is a positive. A negative plus a negative is a negative. So we're going to use -3 and -4. Because -3 plus -4 is -7. So I'm going to replace my terms. So I have x squared minus 3x minus 4x plus 12. The first group, I can take an x out, leaving me with x minus 3. The second group, I can take a -4 out, leaving me with x minus 3. So I know I've done it right because those are the same. So I have x minus 3 and x minus 4. Does anybody see a pattern?
No.
Okay.
Well, you do the same thing every time.
Say that again.
You do the same thing every time.
Or what did you say?
X minus 3 and x minus 4.
Okay. So these numbers are here. That's happened every time so far. So I need everybody to look up here just for a minute so I know I have your attention. Because the next one, that's not going to work. When the A term is 1, you can skip, this is what I call the shortcut. The shortcut is you have to do up to here, and once you find these two numbers, you can go ahead and jump to here and write your factors, okay? Every time we've done this, if you look up here, every one that we've had, 5 and -3, we've had 5 and -3. It worked for the shortcut. And 5 and 4. It works with the shortcut. That's because your A term for all of these was 1. Okay? We're going to switch now and math it up to the A term is not going to be 1. When the A term is not 1, you can't do the shortcut. You have to go through all the steps. Okay? Let's say that together as a class. When the A term is not 1, you have to go through the steps.
All the steps.
All the steps. You cannot do the shortcut. Okay? I debated whether to even show you the shortcut because I have people that just jump to doing the shortcut all the time. And you can't if the A term is 1. But you can when the A term
Is 1.
is 1. Did I say is 1 twice?
Yes. No, you said is not 1. Then you said
Oh, dear.
I heard you.
This is tough.
We got it. We're good.
Okay, so now let's do one that we have to do. Or here, do you want to do one more shortcut one?
No.
You're good with those? Okay, you understand the difference between shortcut and not shortcut. This one is not a shortcut. So we're going to do this one. 2x squared plus 11x. Oh my gosh, I just wrote an 11 for the plus. Plus 11x plus 12. So right away, I know I cannot do the shortcut, but I can do the whole thing. So I have A times C. Do you guys want to try this one?
Yeah.
All by yourself? Okay. Okay, so we have A times C is 24, B is 11, 8 times 3 is 24, and 8 plus 3 is 11. So I'm going to replace my B term, so I have 2x squared plus 8x plus 3x plus 12. Everybody with me and agree so far? So first group, second group. First group, I can take a 2 and an x out, leaving me with x plus 4. The second group, I can take a positive 3 out, leaving me with x plus 4. So my two factors are x plus 4 and 2x plus 3. And if you notice, the shortcut doesn't work. So you have to do all the way out when you've got an A term that's not 1. Okay? I think, what time are we done?
Now.
Not now, 42. Okay, good. I've got 2 more examples. I'm going to skip over the next one because I was going to have the next one that you do on your own, but I think you guys are okay with this. The next 2, one of them is just, I'll show you how you would factor something like this. 6x squared plus 9x. If you're given just something like this, or just 2 terms, and it's not a special one, which I'm going to show you here in a minute, all you can do to factor this is look to see what they have in common. So what do these 2 terms have in common?
3 squared, 3x.
3 and an x. So I'm going to take a 3x out. That's going to leave me with what in my first term?
2x.
And then plus 3. So this would be the factored form for something like this. Am I good with that?
Sounds good.
We're gonna have to do that.
Huh?
You said we're gonna have to do that.
Yeah. But, yeah. Okay, the last thing I'm going to show you is a special case for factoring. It's called the difference of 2 squares. Let me just make sure that's what we're doing. Yes, we are. Difference of 2 squares looks like this. You have to have subtraction, because that's the word difference, and you have to have 2 perfect squares. So this is actually the easiest one to factor when we go to factor, and it looks like this. If I have a perfect square here minus a perfect square, it will factor to a plus b, so the square root of this term, the square root of the second term, and a minus b. This is one you're going to see a lot in your math days. But when you see this one, you should actually be excited because it's the easiest ones to do. So if I have something like this, 4x squared minus 9. You have to look at yourself first and look to see if it's subtraction, because you need subtraction for this to work. And then you say, can I take the square root of that, of 4 and an x squared? What's the square root of 4? 2. And what's the square root of x squared? Just x. And then what's the square root of 9? 3. So the way you factor this is you have a plus and you have a minus. You do the square root of the first term, so that's a 2x. And then the square root of a second term, and that's a 3. And this is all you have to do to factor those.
I was lost the whole time. Okay. Sorry.
I mean, you didn't pay attention.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Well, good thing I've got one more of these then.
Okay, sweet.
Okay, so the next one I want to look at, because for some reason this one, not 2.
Don't work hard, no drama, have fun. Okay.
25x squared minus 1. Is this a difference?
Yes.
So is it subtraction? Yes. Can you take the square root of 25x squared?
Yeah.
What does that become? 5x. And what's the square root of 1? 1. So you can factor this with a plus and a minus, and this becomes 5x in the first term, and then just a 1 in the second term. So we like difference 2 squares. They're the easy ones.
So it's just whatever the square root is.
Yep.
Plus whatever minus whatever. Sweet.
Okay, this is due in class today. What I'm going to give you is a book assignment for today. And we're going to go over this in class. So go ahead and start grabbing your books. Okay,